On December 13, 1959, Johnny Whitaker was born in Van Nuys, California, as John Orson Whitaker Jr. Johnny had a special spark that set him apart from a very young age, not only as a performer, but also as a small child who had the capacity to emotionally engage audiences in a way that seemed sincere and genuine. His warm, sincere, and innocent performances characterized his career and established him as a household figure before he had even reached adolescence. Whitaker's debut into show industry came early. He began making appearances in television ads at the age of 3, rapidly becoming well known for his expressive face and effortless presence. These early appearances opened the stage for what would become a great acting journey. In 1966, his big break happened when he was hired as Jody Davis in the renowned CBS sitcom Family Affair. Johnny, who co-starred with Brian Keith and Sebastian Cabot, was a young orphan who moved in with his Uncle Bill with his twin sister Buffy, played by Anissa Jones. From 1966 until 1971, the show lasted for 5 seasons and was a huge success. Millions of people were moved by Johnny's portrayal of Jody because they could identify with his genuine representation of childish innocence in the face of loss and change, as well as his emotional vulnerability. Whitaker's prominence soared as Family Affairs continued to gain appeal. His skill and ability to play emotionally charged roles with the maturity of an adult actor made him one of Hollywood's most well-known young stars. His intimate bond with his co-stars, especially Brian Keith, transacted flawlessly on screen, giving the audience a genuine sense of family that struck a deep chord. Off-screen, Keith took on the role of a father figure to Johnny, a relationship that would have a significant impact on him later in life. Whitaker made a smooth transition into cinema roles when the family scandal ended, something that many child stars found difficult to achieve. His portrayal in The Biscuit Eater, a heartwarming tale of a youngster and his devoted dog, garnered him considerable praise in 1972 and demonstrated his ability to carry a film with real emotional depth. In the same year, he also played the role of the loving but naughty Tom Sawyer in Reader's Digest-produced Tom Sawyer, 1973, which had a Sherman Brothers score. His portrayal of the daring child from Mark Twain's beloved book received a lot of praise and is still regarded as one of the characters most memorable on screen. In 2012, Johnny Whitaker made a startling and inventive comeback to the public eye by co-producing and co-hosting the Dr. Zod and Johnny Show, a brief but remarkable radio talk show. The series gave Whitaker a platform to communicate with audiences in an entirely new medium, combining wit, open discussion, and sincere introspection. His innate charm behind the mic, his sharp sense of humor, and his insightful observations on life in and out of show industry were frequently praised by viewers. Despite its short lifespan, the show became a nostalgic treasure for devoted fans who loved listening to the former child star talk candidly, humorously, and maturely about his experiences in Hollywood and beyond. Whitaker made yet another creative leap the next year, in 2013, this time on stage. He appeared in the Judson Theater Company's professional production of To Kill a Mockingbird, the timeless American classic based on Harper Lee's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel. Despite only a cameo, Whitaker's portrayal of Judge Taylor had a subdued gravity that demonstrated both his command of the stage and his appreciation of literary drama. Audiences were impressed by his presence, and commentators observed how his calm authority and passionate delivery brought credibility to the courtroom scenes. For Whitaker, the part was a significant comeback to live theater, a setting that enabled him to rediscover the unadulterated art of acting that initially drew him to entertainment as a youngster. In 2016, Whitaker delighted fans of all ages with a nostalgic appearance in the Sigmund and the Sea Monsters revival on Amazon, a popular series that initially made him famous in the 1970s. Appearing in the inaugural episode, he played the role of Zach, a surly yet humorous boat owner who throws barbs with David Arquette's salty seafarer Captain Barnabas. It was more than just a lighthearted guest appearance. It was a sincere homage to Whitaker's beginnings in children's television as well as the original program. The episode also included cameos from the renowned series founders, Sid and Marty Krofft, which added to the feeling of celebration and reunion. For both old fans and new viewers, Whitaker's return to the world of Sigmund and the Sea Monsters was a pleasant reminder of his continuing connection to a generation of Saturday morning television fantasy. Johnny Whitaker shone through these varied endeavors, radio, theater, and film, that his love of telling stories had never waned. From his warmth and humorous timing to his emotional depth and nostalgic appeal, each presentation showcased a new aspect of his talent. Whitaker continued to develop decades after first capturing people's hearts as a young actor, demonstrating that his inventiveness and commitment to amusing viewers remained unwavering. Johnny Whitaker's marriage to Cimbria Wright was a brief but crucial episode in the actor's complex personal life. In 1984, while Johnny was trying to make his way through the frequently difficult transition from child celebrity to adulthood, the two were married. By that time, Whitaker was already well recognized for his outstanding appearances in Family Affair Tom Sawyer and Sigmund and the Sea Monsters. But behind the happy boy next door persona that had brought him fame, he was having a hard time finding a new identity and purpose outside of the Hollywood limelight. After years in the demanding world of show business, he was looking for stability, friendship, and maybe a feeling of normalcy when he married Cimbria Wright. Johnny, who had grown tired of the demands of celebrity and the artificiality that frequently surrounded it, could have found it appealing at first that Cimbria Wright was not in the entertainment business. Their union was a hopeful attempt to discover true connection away from the spotlight and to ground his life. The couple spent happy times together and dreamed of a future together, but like many young marriages, particularly those surrounded by the complicated world of Hollywood, they quickly ran into problems. Johnny was going through personal difficulties, such as becoming increasingly disillusioned with the entertainment business. He would subsequently struggle with substance misuse, which had a significant impact on his relationships and life. As emotional distance and competing priorities started to wear on the marriage, these issues probably caused a great deal of stress. After 4 years of marriage, Johnny Whitaker and Cimbria Wright made the decision to separate and get a divorce in 1988. The parting marked a sad era in Johnny's life. However, it also marked a sea change. The collapse of their marriage led him to address his own personal demons and reconsider the path of his life. The divorce had a significant impact on Johnny's perception of relationships, resiliency, and self-worth, even though not much has been made public about Cimbria Wright herself. In subsequent interviews, Whitaker opened out about the struggles he had both during and after the marriage, considering how the loss of that connection was one of many wake-up calls that finally prompted him to start over. One of the most trying periods of Johnny's life began after their divorce, during which he struggled with addiction and strayed from the acting profession that had characterized his early years. However, a striking change emerged from that gloom. He came out sober and spiritually rejuvenated years later, committing himself to aiding those enduring like struggles. In this way, his brief marriage to Cimbria Wright might be viewed as a painful but essential phase in his protracted quest for recovery and self-improvement. For decades, viewers of the renowned 1960s sitcom Family Affair have held a special place in their hearts for the sweet bond between young Jody Davis and his on-screen Uncle Bill Davis, played by veteran actor Brian Keith. Johnny Whitaker, the child actor who played Jody, has now chosen to talk more openly about what it was actually like to work with Keith, a man who became much more than just a co-star to him. At the age of 65, Whitaker disclosed that Brian Keith was more than simply another actor on the scene. When I was a young child trying to understand everything, he took the time to teach me, mentor me, and shield me from the demands of Hollywood. He was like a second father to me. His remarks illuminated the strong emotional bond between the two, which went well beyond the meticulously crafted screenplays and the cameras. Whitaker clarified that he was thrown into an adult-populated world when he was just 7 years old when Family Affair started. Extended working hours and severe demands. Brian Keith stood out as a reassuring presence in the midst of everything. Whitaker claimed that despite his rough exterior, he had a tender heart. Although he didn't discuss emotions much, it was clear that he was sincerely concerned. In between shoots, Keith, who is renowned for his rough exterior and manly presence, stopped to joke with the kids, even assisted them in comprehending the significance of their lines. "Johnny, don't just say the words, believe them," he would advise. "I've carried that with me throughout my life." But Whitaker also revealed that his connection with Keith wasn't always easy. Whitaker acknowledged that he may be frightening. Everyone knew to keep out of his way when he was agitated because he possessed a voice that could shake you. I never questioned his love for us, though. He was only a man with a lot of internal weight. When Whitaker considered Keith's later hardships, such as personal tragedies and deteriorating health, his tone became solemn. He continued softly, "I think people forget that even strong men like Brian can be broken inside. He had endured a great deal, and sometimes his suffering manifested itself in ways that others couldn't comprehend." Whitaker was only a teenager when the family affair ended in 1971, and he was still coming to terms with his identity as a child star. "Brian stayed in touch with me for a long," Whitaker revealed. "He would call and ask how I was doing, especially when he heard I was struggling. However, Hollywood has the power to divide people. Each of us had a course to follow." Whitaker was devastated to learn about Keith's untimely death in 1997, years later. He remarked, "I remember crying like a kid again. I understood how much suffering he must have been in, so it crushed my heart. He was more than simply my uncle on TV. I considered him family." Whitaker continued by talking about how much he still remembers Keith's teachings. "I learned what true professionalism looks like from him," he remarked. "He demonstrated to me that acting was about honesty, not simply celebrity." Every scene seemed genuine to Brian, as if he weren't performing at all. "If you don't feel it, Johnny, the audience won't either," he would add. "I've been following that advice for more than 50 years. When considering Keith's impact, Whitaker highlighted how uncommon it was to come across a Hollywood individual who truly cared about a kid actor's well-being. He clarified that while many adults viewed children like me as props, Brian never did. He considered me a human being. He took care of me, and I believe that's part of the reason I made it through the industry when so many child stars failed." Whitaker has already discussed his own struggles with addiction and melancholy following the decline of his popularity, but he attributes his resiliency to mentors like Keith. "I would think about Brian's strength whenever I was feeling low," he remarked. "He was the type of man who bravely tackled his troubles, and I was motivated to continue by that." In addition to the fame it provided him, Whitaker now looks back on his family affair with great appreciation for the ties that helped to shape his life. He said regretfully, "I don't think I ever really told Brian how much he meant to me. I would tell him that he transformed my life if I could. No amount of money or celebrity could ever replace the belief in myself that he instilled in me." Fans are reminded by Johnny Whitaker's sincere observations that genuine human connections, some delicate, some complex, but all profoundly significant, were hidden behind the fun and smiles of television's heyday. Whitaker said, "My hero was Brian Keith. And now that I'm 65, I can finally see that he wasn't merely acting. Every day, he demonstrated to me what a true father figure and man ought to be." In addition to being a co-star, Johnny Whitaker now recognizes Brian Keith as a significant influence who shaped who he is today. He decided that Brian was complicated. He had great love and honesty, but he also had his share of demons. Although he didn't always express it verbally, he demonstrated it by his work habits, interpersonal interactions, and demeanor. By finally speaking the truth about Brian Keith, Whitaker hopes that fans will remember him for more than simply his television roles. Rather, they will remember the man's gentle humanity and depth.